Hey guys, good old JM here, and this is your greatest Royal Rumble review on the JM Report. I mentioned in a previous episode that I was going to wait till my following regularly scheduled uploading episode, but I figured, it's the weekend, I had extra time, and I just seen the event a few hours ago. As many of you know, I made a mistake on scheduling my next recording session, and it conflicted with the greatest Royal Rumble event. So here I am, hopefully making up for it, as I'll give my thoughts and opinions of what took place and, of course, results of what happened over at Saudi Arabia during the greatest Royal Rumble. There's a good chance this might be an annual thing, as it's been rumored that there was a 10-year deal worth nearly $25 million between the WWE and Saudi Arabia to have more than one event per year. Again, it's just a rumor. It's been floating around out there ever since this event was announced a few weeks ago. So we'll just wait to see what happens, and I guess it would eventually show in its quarterly meetings. Those numbers are usually presented to the public because, as many of you know, WWE is a publicly traded company now, and those details may or may not show up. But either way, good for them between both sides that they're able to work something out and bring this kind of event for more than once a year and for many years to come, for a whole decade. I was under the impression that Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler would be providing commentary, but that was not the case. They were just regulated to the kickoff show along with Booker T and Byron Saxton, and a little bit, a few minutes there during, I guess, intermission because there was about a 10 to 15 minute break in the middle of the event. And many believed this because it was after sundown when the event started at 7 p.m. local time, and that the citizens of Saudi Arabia needed that time slot or that time period in order to pray as they do traditionally and customly. So it wasn't shown on television, but that's what the impression is on social media at this time. Also, another reason, oh my goodness, the commentary here was atrocious, and I watched this mostly on mute because I just couldn't stand the three-man team. If they're not always arguing, if they're not always doing their job of calling what's going on in the ring, besides plugging hashtags and upcoming events every 2 minutes, then it just gets annoying, and it's been annoying for me for a long time now. Especially not only are they not calling what's happening in the ring, but Michael Cole in particular getting a lot of facts wrong, as he did here to that night or that afternoon in our case. But it's yeah, it's a regular thing, and yes, I'm aware that he gets fed a lot of lines through the headset, but just as he's being fed those lines through headset, it comes off as non-authentic as possible. I just don't. I have never, for as long as he's worked there, 20 something years, I have yet to hear an authentic, closest to legitimate emotional commentating from Cole ever. But that's just my opinion. Not everything's entirely his fault. I did give him some credit when he spoke back to Vince about one too many times trying to plug in, I believe it was a hashtag or whatever on Raw one time, and that footage was leaked online. And he was like, not cursing at Vince, but he was using expletive in his conversation and his point. And I guess Vince got back to him, and next thing you know, he was Cole saying, "Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir." Anyway, complaints of many of the fans on, at least from this side of the world in the United States, not understanding as to why there weren't any women on the card. Well, it's just the way things are on that side of the world, and hopefully, yeah, I did have a written statement by the WWE in regards, well, not specifically regarding why there weren't any women on the show, but from the Saudi Arabia Sports Authority, if I'm not mistaken, that's what it's called. Yes, the Saudi Arabia General Sports Authority. They put out a statement on their Twitter page apologizing. Now, this is not has nothing to do with why there weren't any women, and as far as the complainant's point of view, but it did shed on a little bit light on the subject, as this was more of an apology from the Sports Authority to the people of Saudi Arabia. And I read this, and it's probably not the best translation, but it's as close as it gets, because the text was written in Saudi Arabian language on the Twitter page, and this is over at the Reddit website. So I'm going to read it verbatim as per the translation as best as possible, as far as how it was retranslated. So here we go. The General Sport Authority would like to apologize to their viewers and attendees of last night's WWE event that took place in Jeddah over the scene involving women that appeared as an ad before a segment. It would like to confirm its total disapproval of this, and the shadow of its commitment to eliminate anything that goes against the community's values. The authority has sure to ban showing of any segment that involves women wrestling or any scenes related to it, and if that to the company of WWE. Again, this is not the best translation. It will go on to say the authority also disapproved any promotional stuff with pictures or videos showing women in an indecent way, and on committing to of this rule and commitment of this rule, and its commitment that the authority would still commit to forever and in all of its events and programs. So basically, it's not common to have women. Well, okay, to put it more bluntly, the way, say, Sasha Banks or Alexa Bliss, or yeah, even Alicia Fox, their outfits will be considered disapproving. Their normal ring attire they would normally have on Raw or SmackDown in the States, it's not considered, I guess, PC on that side of the world. It's inappropriate, and I know a lot of people don't understand that, mostly guys, and growing up after having my fair share of looking at women a certain way, and I'll admit, we were all young and made stupid decisions, and would even say dumb things, but after a while you grow up, you mature, and you appreciate the fact that all women don't have to be in ring attires in this case that are really showing off more than they probably need to. Again, I'm not complaining much, but you try to explain that to someone else from around the world, and they've been accustomed a certain way to have women cover up, even up until the eyelids or the eye line, and not really show your face until marriage. And that's a practice that still goes on to this day. And this was something that was agreed upon between WWE and the Saudi Arabian Sports Authority. So what this statement is referencing to, during the Greatest Royal Rumble event, they were promoting upcoming events and programming for the network, as well as Backlash, and there were parts of the video packages that had Nia Jax or Alicia Fox, Alexa Bliss, Sasha, Bailey, basically the majority of the women's roster on both sides of Raw and SmackDown, in the ring, performing action, performing wrestling maneuvers, and showing off their ring attire. So yeah, that wasn't part of the deal. So more than likely an accident or a mistake, or just somebody had the wrong package set up, and it was meant to be shown only to us here in the States, but I guess the same feed went across Saudi Arabia and they saw what they saw. So hopefully this doesn't happen again, if they still want to continue doing business together between WWE and Saudi Arabia. Something else that came out that was mentioned by WWE, they put out their own statement, not regarding this unfortunate accident with the video packages, but in regards to one Sami Zayn. Now, Sami Zayn, many of you realize that he wasn't part of the card. He wasn't even backstage. Nothing. As a matter of fact, I don't even think he made the trip. But according to WrestlingInc.com, WWE put out a statement in relations to that, and they said WWE is committed to embracing individuals from all backgrounds while respecting local customs and cultural differences around the world. That's referencing to Sami Zayn is not from Canada. He's from he's from Syria. He's from Syrian descent, and unfortunately, some people from Syria and Saudi Arabia do not get along. And to avoid conflict or any kind of altercations, so on and so forth, Sami Zayn just was not a part of the event. And again, it's just another unfortunate custom that WWE decided to respect and not to upset any potential future clients later on, if you will, for lack of a better term, because there was a deal made between both sides. And if and when they do return to Saudi Arabia for another big event such as this one, there's a good chance that Sami Zayn will not be part of that either. So don't expect him to defend the championship if he does win one anytime soon. You would just not be there to defend it, unfortunately. So it's just how it is, and it's been like that for a very long time. Those who complain about that and the lack of women on the show, just just I'm sorry to say, but read a book. There are reasons why certain things are done a way that not everyone's going to agree with, and it doesn't take that much time to look into as to why. It's not often that they go to that part of the world. It's been a while since they actually had a tribute to the troops in the Middle East, mainly because of safety reasons and precautions. So there are reasons. It's not just, there are sometimes they do things that I disagree with, but once I find out the reason and it sounds legit, then okay, all right. At least there was a reason. It wasn't just to cause the fans to get upset and to be sending out mean tweets or emails or angry letters to WWE headquarters in Connecticut. Things are done for a reason, and at least up until those video packages aired, everything was going smoothly. So I'm sure Vince's ringing the ears are the ones that are responsible for that. And there were some apologies issued by WWE, assumingly. So let's get right into it. John Cena opened up the event with a match against Triple H. Nothing special here, even though both men had WrestleMania-type entrances. Triple H with his lighting and some pyro over the stadium, and Cena having a bunch of Saudi Arabian children dressed in his ring gear, shirts, hats, wristbands, the whole 9 yards, greeting him on top of the entrance, doing all the John Cena gestures and high-fiving all the kids, and he got down to the ring. These guys have had better matches. This was just, it was okay, decent. There were no real botches. Some of that will come later. And in the end, it took Triple H to get Cena down into a crippling crossface submission hold, and John Cena would counter that into an AA and get the 3 count. And that was again nothing really special out of this match. We've seen better, and they can do better. Later on, we would see the Cruiserweight Championship defended by Cedric Alexander taking on Kalisto. This was one of the greatest matches on the card. I would say second best, and I'll get to the first one in a bit. This match should have been, well, it was WrestleMania caliber, if you will. Thankfully, this wasn't part of the kickoff as the one on WrestleMania was, but this time the only difference was it was Kalisto instead of Mustafa Ali. And towards the end, they took Kalisto to deliver a Spanish fly off the second rope, and it was beautifully delivered. It was almost one of those Kurt Angle moonsaults, as if it looked like they were floating in midair, and the impact was just as spectacular looking. And as Kalisto was about to try to hit his Salida del Sol, in midair, Cedric Alexander would counter it into his lumbar check and got the 3 count, retaining his championship. A great match, one of Kalisto's best in recent time, and they should go at it again. I think Kalisto really proved himself here in quite some time. For the vacant Raw Tag Team Championships, Bray Wyatt teamed up with Matt Hardy, the Broken Warriors, the Woken Warriors, the Leader of Worlds, choose your favorite name here, took on the Bar of Sheamus and Cesaro. Now, this was kind of a predictable match, and it was because after the draft, everyone knew that Sheamus and Cesaro were heading to SmackDown, so it would not make no sense whatsoever to have Sheamus and Cesaro win Raw Tag Team Championships when they're already drafted to SmackDown. And I think that would have made more things complicated unless they went the route where, okay, your SmackDown team won a Raw title, so they have to return to Raw, and in exchange, we'll give you Matt and Bray. I mean, they could have done something like that, but in the scheme of things, I think it was done intentionally where the ball was already sent to SmackDown for reasons to better sharpen up the tag team division there, just like they did with Raw bringing up the Authors of Pain and among other teams. So, yeah, it wouldn't make any sense for Sheamus and Cesaro to win the match here. So at the end, it took Bray Wyatt to elevate Sheamus up for Matt to deliver a twist of fate. 1, 2, 3. So now Matt Hardy and Bray Wyatt predictably have become your new Raw Tag Team Champions. And as Matt Hardy pointed out in a Facebook interview while Jeff Hardy was being backstage, Jeff congratulated his brother, and Matt replied, of course, in his woken Matt Hardy accent, that he always wins championships in April. Of course, pointing out the fact that they returned a year ago now, if you can imagine that, returning to WrestleMania, and they won the Raw Tag Team titles then. And of course, 1 year later, still in April, Matt Hardy once again regains the Raw Tag Team Championship only with Bray Wyatt. And speaking of Jeff, he will take on Jinder Mahal for the United States Championship in a rematch of sorts of the Monday Night Raw portion of the draft. And the one takeaway of this match was a botch. And this one leans more on Jinder Mahal than anyone else. So, and we've seen this setup before. Jeff Hardy will climb up the ropes from the inside of the ring. So his back is turned to the ring, going for the whisper in the wind. Now, I can only assume that Jeff thought that Jinder was in place, or at least in position close enough that he can deliver the move. But no, Jeff delivers the whisper in the wind, hits nothing but ring canvas. And what made it worse, Jinder still sewed as if he got hit by a bowling ball off the top rope and still took a bump. And of course, the commentator was trying to play it off. Oh, I guess he kind of hit him. He got to graze him. I'm like, no, Jeff completely missed, and Jinder still bumped. And out of all the times they didn't get a crowd reaction on camera, yeah, but you heard it. You heard the awes, like, oh, come on, yeah. It was so obvious, and I don't know if that made things speed up in the match to go home, but it wasn't long after that Jeff would hit a twist of fate and then a swanton bomb and got the 3 count, thus keeping the United States Championship on SmackDown, and Jeff retained and is still your United States champion. And by the way, all of the seats on the arena floor, it wasn't filled to capacity, at least not on the arena floor as you would normally see, say, at a WrestleMania or SummerSlam, what have you. All the seats were not those collectible chairs you would take home. These were all sofa chairs, the sofa seats. And it looked so darn comfortable. I wish I had one right now. I kind of do, but it wasn't as tall as the ones that they had at the Jeddah Stadium. I'm sure it's a different name, but it was at the stadium in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia. And wow, they really went all out. I guess you want to have too many uncomfortable fans in attendance and just really kick back and just chill on your sofa seat. That was really awesome. And the ladder match for the Intercontinental Championship, Seth Rollins defended against Finn Balor, Samoa Joe, and The Miz. Great match. This was the first, not the first, but this was the other greatest match of the night, just ahead of the Cruiserweight Championship. And towards the end, it took Samoa Joe and The Miz to be knocked out of the ring along with Seth Rollins. But he was already hoisting himself up when he was leaning up against one of the announce tables outside. Finn Balor was setting up the ladder, and of course we've all seen this spot before. You climb up a couple of rungs and you reach out only to be just out of reach, and you climb up one more rung, you reach up again, up, you're still short, and it's repeated over and over and over until all of a sudden you see Seth Rollins springboard off the top rope from the apron to the top rope and latches onto the ladder and runs up the two or three remaining rungs of the ladder and literally steals the championship belt underneath Finn Balor's nose to retain his Intercontinental Championship. And Finn Balor is just left in complete shock that yeah, that just happened. So moving forward, Finn Balor, or maybe even no, Finn Balor is the only Raw guy. Everybody else is SmackDown. So Finn Balor may or may not get his opportunity again at Backlash. That was not announced yet, but hopefully this Monday night coming up, we'll find out. For the SmackDown Tag Team Championships, we saw the Bludgeon Brothers defend against the Usos. Now, I always get the Usos confused, no matter what they wear, to tell them apart, whether it's one wearing a shirt and one wearing an armband or vice versa. But for the sake of argument, let's go with Jimmy. So Jimmy gets caught in the full Nelson by Eric Rowan, and it looked like he was going to do one of those full Nelson slams, but instead he had Harper in the ring as well, catches Jimmy in the powerbomb position, and both men drive Jimmy down to the canvas and retain their SmackDown Tag Team Championships. A much better match than it was at WrestleMania. Obviously, a little bit longer, even though that was a triple threat. But here it showed a little bit more dominant skills from the Bludgeon Brothers, as Eric Rowan gets more and more puffier. He's getting more bulky. Many are noticing the lean physique look on Harper, on Luke Harper, and it's a good look for him. Even though many compared him to Bruiser Brody, the late great Bruiser Brody, but Brody was never as lean looking as Luke Harper is now, and I think that helps him with his speed. He's a very agile and athletic big man, especially when he had his Intercontinental Championship run that seemed like a lifetime ago. But it's working out for him, and hopefully have long-term plans for the Bludgeon Brothers as they're right now dominating the SmackDown Tag Team division. In one of the rematches from WrestleMania, AJ Styles defended his WWE Championship against Shinsuke Nakamura, and this was a much better match than the one it had at Mania, and I think some of it had to do with the fact that there's finally a heel against a face for a championship, as compared to the face versus face Mania match they had. And sure, we've had that before. Of course, the first that comes to mind is Hulk Hogan and the Ultimate Warrior back at WrestleMania 6. But times have changed a little bit, and the crowd was split like they were back in 1990. But I think having a heel versus face for a title adds more drama. So you kind of have to be more forceful to choose a side. Because back then, even though we had a heel, not too many heels were getting cheered like they would be later on, say with a Stone Cold Steve Austin or heel Triple H. Or, they'll get all these great reactions, at a different time. But that extra drama did add more element to the match, and it was a much better one, but not a better ending. As both men tumbled to the outside of the ring, AJ Styles was showing a little bit more aggression than normal, and was just beating down Shinsuke outside near the timekeeper's area. He'll flip him over the barricade wall there, smashing him against the announcer's desk, and both men get counted out. So no decisive winner here, and there's I guess gonna be a rubber match. But even though there was no winner here, but they will have a rematch for the championship at Backlash next Sunday, or next Sunday as of this recording. But at least it was a much better match. The Undertaker took on Rusev, and then he was supposed to take on Chris Jericho, but then it was back into Rusev in a casket match. And this match definitely longer than Cena Taker match at Mania. Taker was basically sticking to his usual signature maneuvers and pulling out all of his great stuff here, from old school clotheslines off the ropes, choke slams, and of course tombstones. But Rusev got a way more offense here than Cena ever did at Mania, and of course along with Aiden English providing plenty of distractions. So it took a choke slam to Rusev, rolled him into the casket, and the casket itself was noticeably wider, not deeper from top to bottom, but definitely wider. And I was wondering as to why, but I will find out here in a minute. As English was preventing Taker from closing the casket lid, he will bring him into the ring and gets a chokeslam for his trouble and a wicked looking tombstone as English's head looked like it bounced off the mat. He will go on to Twitter later on saying that he was okay, thankfully, because it really looked like a scary moment there for Eddie English. So Taker rolls him into the casket and both men laid flat on their backs comfortably. And it was just enough room for both men to lay next to each other and for Taker to close the casket and win the match over Rusev. For the Universal Championship, defended inside a steel cage, Brock Lesnar defending against Roman Reigns. Yet here another rematch from WrestleMania. Why exactly, even though Lesnar won clear as day, surprisingly at Mania, but Reigns got a rematch. So let's just get to the finish because the match itself wasn't anything special. It was nothing but signature moves over and over again. A Superman punch here, a German suplex there, a spear here, FI there, so on and so forth. So Reigns is setting up for one last spear, and Brock Lesnar is trying to get up, and he's using the ropes for leverage, and he ends up standing between the ropes and the cage near the entranceway. So here comes Roman Reigns. Wow, whatever he says. He's about to spear Lesnar up against the cage, but instead he spears Lesnar through the cage, breaking that portion of the gate and hitting the arena floor. And at first, everyone's thinking, "Oh, okay, I guess Roman wins, doesn't he? Why isn't the bell ringing?" And mass confusion begins. The commentators did no help as they made things worse because it was clearly indicated by the ring announcer that both feet had to touch the floor. Basically, if you choose to leave the ring, whether to climb over the top or go through the door, but both feet have to touch the floor. Otherwise, the winning was by pinfall or submission, as there was a referee inside the cage. But here's what I think happened. The portion of the cage that broke and fell to the floor was supposed to break off completely, but it didn't. Only the bottom portion was still attached to the rest of the cage and prevented it from landing flat on the ground. And logically, had that happened that way, Lesnar would have been the first to hit the floor. But Lesnar's shoulders and back hit the floor. His feet were still hanging on the fence as it was still attached to the bottom of the cage. While Roman rolled off of Lesnar, his feet ended up hitting the floor. Lesnar still hanging on the cage and realized that Roman rolled off. So Lesnar tried to roll off himself. I think at that point he realized, oh wait, no, we screwed up here. So logically, Roman should have won the match and become the new Universal Champion. But the replays from different angles did not support what the rules were. And as I mentioned, the commentators were making things worse. Oh no, like Saxton especially. Well, Lesnar's body hit first, so clearly he won the match. How is the body compared to both feet hitting the floor first? Oh, sure, had Lesnar landed flat on his back, yeah, there's a good chance his feet will make the contact as well. But that's not what happened. So, needless to say, they screwed up. They botched that. And even if the bottom of that portion of the cage was not meant to break off, Roman still rolled off of Lesnar, and he's already on the floor. But I don't believe that's how it's supposed to end. They really screwed up, or again, the cage didn't break as it was supposed to, and it was just an awkward ending there, awkward moment for everyone involved. At this point, the commentators should have just kept their mouths shut and just let's leave it up to the referee. Let's see what he decides, and then go off the fact that it was a controversial finish. Like, well, the rule stated this, but the referee said that. But again, they just didn't help matters, and the fact of Lesnar not going to be a backlash. Instead, you're going to have Roman Reigns against Samoa Joe. So, again, logically, Reigns has all the rights in the world to make that complaint that he was the first one, and hopefully to make this justifiable in any way. Then that's what Roman Reigns should do on Monday Night Raw. that, as you can clearly see, my feet hit first, but yet the referee announces Lesnar as the winner anyway. So how does that work? Well, I guess that's something up to the prop department you got to discuss with and find out what happened to the cage. So now it's finally time for the 50-man Royal Rumble. I'm not going to get into too much detail as far as what happened because there was just a lot of spots here. So what I'll do is I'll run down the order of entrance, and I'll go along to mention noteworthy eliminations and announce the winner. So number one was Daniel Bryan, surprisingly. Dolph Ziggler came out as number two. Sin Cara followed as number three. Curtis Axel was number four. Hall of Famer Mark Henry, number five. Mike Kanellis, who looked great here, by the way, in great shape, making his return to WWE, was number six. Number seven, Hiroki Sumi, a Japanese sumo wrestler who I believe is still in talks with WWE to make a more permanent stay for Sumi. He was straight out of Japan as a sumo wrestler, and he had just a cup of coffee run in the ring as he came out after Mark Henry. They had a face-off, and Henry's about 6'4", and Sumi is just about height-wise as big, but just a little wider than Henry was. And Henry just basically tossed him out the ring after they seemingly looked like they high-fived each other, but no, it was a way for Henry to block, I guess, overhead chops, and he just tossed out Sumi as easy as pie. Number 8 was Victor, followed by number 9, Kofi Kingston. Number 10 was Tony Nese. Dash Wilder came out as number 11. The only surprise entrant in the Rumble was number 12, Hornswoggle. Number 13 was Primo minus Epico. 14 saw Xavier Woods head down to the ring. 15 was Bo Dallas. 16 was General Manager Kurt Angle. 17 saw Scott Dawson head out. 18 was Goldust. 19, Connor of the Ascension. 20 had Elias perform a mini concert from the ramp, from the top of the ramp all the way to the ring, and eliminating Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods, and I believe Goldust in the process. Number 21 saw Luke Gallows. 22 was Rhino. 23, one of my favorite names in 205 Live, Drew Gulak. Now that's a heel name if I ever heard one. 24 was NXT's Tucker Knight. 25 was Bobby Roode, so we're about halfway here. 26 was Fandango. Chad Gable, who had a great performance in the Rumble, was number 27. The returning Rey Mysterio came out as number 29. Mojo Rawley was 29. I'm sorry, Rey Mysterio was 28. Mojo Rawley was number 29. Number 30 saw Tyler Breeze come out and quickly was eliminated. 31 saw Big E. 32 was Carl Anderson. 33 was Apollo Crews, not with his full name. 34 was Roderick Strong of the Undisputed Era and NXT Tag Team Champion. 35 was Randy Orton. Now, a quick bit here. There were photos taken of inside the arena, presumably while rehearsing for lighting and pyro and Titantrons. And one of the pictures saw Randy Orton's name up on the Titantron and the number 22 next to his name on the left and right of the screens. It was assuming that Randy Orton was going to come out as number 22. But as we saw during the Rumble, that was Rhino instead coming out as 22, and Randy came out as number 35. So it's assuming that word got back to Vince, and rather to make it too obvious that the fans would know ahead of time who number 22 was going to be. And Randy wasn't the only one. There were other pictures taken from the background, and you see names and numbers next to them. And chances are they had their numbers changed as to not make it so obvious. But this one was stood out because there were more pictures of the Randy Orton name background taken and shared throughout social media than anyone else's. So Randy Orton's number was changed from 22 to 35. Next up, we saw Heath Slater at 36. Baba Today. I apologize if I'm botching that name, but he's an NXT newcomer. Came out as number 37. Very big dude. And I haven't seen him before, but my understanding, he's only had a couple of appearances on NXT. Baron Corbin will come out as 38. And the kicker of the night, number 39, Titus O'Neil. Presumably running too fast and ended up sliding underneath the ring. His own momentum took him after tripping on the ring mat on the outside. And it looked like the ring ate him. And after realizing that he was okay, he crawled out of the ring from underneath the ring, stood up, and got inside the ring. But at that point, the commentators just had a field day. For at least 10 minutes or so, they just could not stop laughing, could not stop bringing it up. And someone had the idea to tell the truck or wherever the satellite feed was coming from to replay that spot over and over again for the next few minutes. And poor Titus, they ran it at they ran it real time, they ran it in slow mo, they ran it different angles. Chances are he was not going to hear the end of it. But thankfully, he has a good sense of humor about it, as he would tweet later on, I believe the following morning, as the ring crew was about to prepare to bring down the set and the ring. The ring was still standing. So what Titus did, he walked down to the side of the ring where he slipped underneath and had someone take a picture of him while holding or placing his hand onto the ring apron, and tweeted out, "My WWE Greatest Royal Rumble idea for the Greatest Royal Rumble moment was born at WWE Shop. Get the merch ready. I'm about to slide these extra checks right into my bank." So once again, good to know that Titus O'Neil has a sense of humor about this, and would not surprise me if they end up having merchandise T-shirts or something of that nature, showing that Titus O'Neil was eaten by the ring. Number 40 saw the debut, well, not the debut, but I guess main roster debut of Dan Matha. 41 was Braun Strowman. 42 came out as Ty Dillinger. Kurt Hawkins drew number 43. Bobby Lashley came out as 44. The Great Khali made his return here, literally for a cup of coffee, at number 45, as he was eliminated by Lashley and Strowman. 46 saw Kevin Owens, as I mentioned earlier, minus Sami Zayn. 47, Shane McMahon made his way down to the ring. I believe this was his Royal Rumble debut. Shelton Benjamin was number 48. 49 saw the return of Big Cass. And number 50 went to Chris Jericho. Now, there were a few broken records here during the end of this Royal Rumble, and I'll share them here with you. Total eliminations in one Rumble goes to Braun Strowman with 13, breaking the previous record owned by Roman Reigns from a couple of years ago. And supposedly the new shortest time in a Royal Rumble appearance goes to Mike Kanellis, as the previous owner of that record was Santino Marella. They might be off by half a second or so, because between the Bushwhacker Luke elimination and the Santino Marella elimination, it literally looked like stepped in and stepped out. And even the Warlord elimination was quicker than the Mike Kanellis one here. If anyone wants to get the stopwatches on and do the comparison, feel free, or let me know in the comments. But they're claiming that another record was broken by Mike Kanellis as the shortest entrant. And the new longest entry record goes now to Daniel Bryan, surpassing the previous record by Rey Mysterio. I believe that was about 1 hour and 2 minutes. Daniel Bryan went an hour and 16 minutes from number 1 all the way to number 50. An amazing accomplishment after the fact of being cleared to return to the ring and missing out on so many years of in-ring activity. And I'm sure he feels nothing but proudness at this time. And if he's not home already, we'll be celebrating with Brie Bella and the new daughter Birdie. And one thing about Daniel Bryan, if anyone's got a chance to really get a good look at him, especially during his Facebook interview backstage, his chest was beaten red, mostly by Roderick Strong, and he just went to Chop City. Make that t-shirt, guys. He went to Chop City on Daniel Bryan. You will see palm prints, literally fingerprints imprinted on Daniel Bryan's chest. It did everything but bleed. And some guys like before, like Fit Finlay, William Regal, even Chris Benoit, would chop people so hard they would break the skin on their chest and start bleeding. Bryan just came short of that. But I couldn't imagine how sore he was the next day. Not to mention his arms and shoulders were also beaten red. But again, it's as he mentioned in that interview, it goes with the show. It's part of the battle, and no complaints. can imagine how that shower felt the moment he took that with all that redness and soreness on his chest. But moving on, at the end, it came down to Big Cass and Braun Strowman, two of the 7-footers on the roster right now. Of course, from opposite ends of the brands, as Cass from SmackDown was trying to go for a big boot to eliminate Braun Strowman, only to be sidestepped and get caught on the ropes. Strowman would then bounce Cass up and down, and then shoulder tackle him or shoulder check them to eliminate Big Cass. And Strowman has become your greatest Royal Rumble champion, as Vince McMahon and I believe the head of the Saudi Arabian Sports Authority came to present Strowman the trophy, which is a very good looking trophy, at least compared to the women's battle royal at WrestleMania a few weeks ago. And was also given a greatest Royal Rumble championship belt. And I gotta say, I really appreciate it and like the design. It was filled with a few Saudi Arabian cultural references with the swords and the flag, and of course the belt strap itself was painted green in the flag of Saudi Arabia. That belt looks so small on Braun Strowman. I don't think it'll fit around his waist, but chances are he'll probably carry it over his shoulder, and more than likely will come out on Monday Night Raw to show it off, as he should. Strowman was being given a big push up until Mania. Still not sure exactly what to make of that tag team championship match at Mania with that 10-year-old boy, or I forgot his name now, see, and only to surrender him the next night. And I guess the creative realized, hey, we weren't we pushing this guy? We just didn't have anything for Mania, but we have something for him at the Greatest Royal Rumble. How about we try that again and put him back in the forefront, and maybe be once again a legit contender for the Universal Championship if Brock ever decides to return to defend it, as many believe he's still using the UFC as leverage to see which side will give him a better deal. But that's another story for another time, as pretty much the show ended right there. They went off the air with Strowman celebrating once again pyros and fireworks in and outside of the stadium. It provided with a great visual of the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, and it looked like everyone had a good time. There were a lot of children in the audience, a lot of families were in attendance, and more than likely we'll do this again later on in the year, as once again rumored that Saudi Arabia and WWE came to an agreement for the next 10 years worth $25 million a year to have at least 2 shows a year in the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So we'll wait, we'll see, maybe time will tell, maybe around Survivor Series time, if not sooner, maybe before or after SummerSlam, but again, we'll see, baby steps. But I gotta say, overall, the show was okay. Many compare it to a glorified house show. I could see why, and many others was just an overhyped pay-per-view. But for the first time being in Saudi Arabia, chances are I would have done the exact same thing had I had those kind of fundings. But it is what it is, and you can enjoy at least some of the matches for what they were, minus the botch finishes or the undecisive finish, especially between Shinsuke Nakamura and AJ Styles. I thought they could have handled that differently. If they weren't planning to give the title to Shinsuke on the spot, then we all know Shinsuke is a low-blowing guy anyway. Then DQ the guy, disqualify Shinsuke, and AJ would have still retained the championship when a week from now he's going to defend the title again anyway at Backlash. Come on. Anyway, but thanks for joining me. This was IAmGoodOlJM. I was able to get this out there before a whole other week would have went by, and I think it would have been pointless at that point. But thank you for joining. If you like what you hear, leave a comment below, like and share, and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Also, in the description, you'll see other social media sites that I'm part of. Even send me messages at IAmGoodOlJM@gmail.com. So until next time, everyone, be safe, be good, enjoy the rest of your weekend, and I will see you at the next episode of the JM Report.